It's not us versus them or me versus you.
So we're not talking about an us versus them mentality. We're going for this versus that.
This versus that.
Yeah, okay.
I think it helps you get along better.
Game.
Right?
Right.
Sometimes
We get along so well, and sometimes you're extreme right, I'm extreme left, I'm liberal, you're a conservative, and yet we get along so well. That's marvelous, wonderful.
That's amazing.
That's amazing.
Okay.
Amazing grace.
So today,
Saved a wretch.
like you. So today, what we're going to do.
That's good. Come on, talk to me. Get on that microphone. An example. Give me an example of
This versus that thing.
Would he have said,
didn't
"Come
want
on, Hillary, vote for me, baby"?
No. I
wasn't
don't
doing
know. I don't know about that.
Hello.
Well, hello there, and good morning. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
I guess we made it on time. We sprung forward reluctantly.
We sprung white.
Yeah, when you start springing, you got to bring the white out.
Got to bring the white
And the
on.
lavender and
yeah.
the peach and the coral, the pinks. Yeah,
That's going to be a good day.
springtime.
Good day. Good day. This is going to be fun. Okay, where do we go from here?
Well, I am very excited that we have Diana with us today.
Certainly.
Yeah,
Awesome star.
I think so.
She is a star. Yeah.
Hey, Diana. There's
Great to be on the show with you, Rhonda.
Yeah, I know. First time out of all these shows, first time that we've been on face to face. I love your comments. I always read them, and you're so. I don't know. You have a way of trying to be like the mediator of all the commenters. You know what I'm saying?
I agree.
Peacemaker, and give them a chance, or you're right, but can you knock that off? She's good that way.
She's very articulate. Yeah.
Very articulate.
Oh, danke schön.
Yeah. And I see your kitty. Oh my goodness.
Oh, what's she doing now?
She is.
So, what are you up to? Okay, that's the usual.
Yeah, the usual. Adorable.
The usual. Okay, here we are.
DB Cisco, good morning to you.
Morning. Hello, yeah. I mean, he's a nice person. I mean, awesome. When it comes to Diana, I don't care what show she's on. She's always going to compliment the show instead of, taking it backwards. And I think that's where, our discussion today, does the source matter, really comes in, because, I pose, the question. I hope that we get to put our uncle, that is, in the canon. If not, then Jesus shouldn't be in the canon either. Simply because if we're going to tell a story about a good person, let's say that there is more than just one good person. And so the focus shouldn't be just on one good person, Jesus. Let's talk about 2 and 3. In fact, Diana needs to be canonized. And
Absolutely.
this is what needs to happen if we are to make any steps that is forward. And so canonizing people for the sake of humanism, I think it's a very intelligent thing to do, and so many people are pushing back on my position. That is, I want, yes, the Bible to be in the classroom, simply because we don't need to practice models of educating our children with notions of censorship. In other words, if there is a holy book, and you have all kinds of claims made from that holy book, just put it through the testing. That is the process of science, and see what the outcome is, to see if it would change, a bit of the belief sets. I'm not afraid of that, and so many people will feel, oh, you're going to start teaching creationism in science. I would admit to this. This building was created by someone, and that kind of creationism is good. And so if there is a model that we could deal with metaphysically or whatever, that we could talk about from time to time, that might not be a bad idea. And so I see that it's very, very useful. But I know that you want to go in a particular direction, so I'm going to say hello, or here's my ear.
Well, it all came to pass when I was thinking about the things that I was taught, growing up. And I wondered in my mind, did I believe these things because I thought, or do these things that I was taught because I thought I was going to go to hell if I didn't, or were they just good things to believe? And I have come to the conclusion that as a Baptist, it's kind of one and done. You're just, sad to say, even one, but you decide or make a decision for Jesus, and that's a good way to go. I'm good. And then whatever you do the rest of your life, it could be some crazy mixed up bull corn, if you know what I mean. You're still, safe from that. So I had to weigh that in. But then I said, no, I believe that what I heard resonated with my ears and my heart, and it just made sense. For instance, and I gave this example to my husband. I'm not going to quote this perfectly or even close, but there's a passage that says, when bless those that persecute you and despitefully use you. In other words, don't be a tit for tatter. And that's easy to do sometimes. If someone does something against you, you spend most of your time and your energy thinking, what can I do back to them? But when it's all said and done, it's not the most excellent way to do that. It's really not. Caveat here, if you mess with my kids and my grandchildren, I'm going to scratch your eyes
Okay,
out.
but
No,
this
just
is kind
joking.
of this is kind of weird because you're for Trump. He's tit for tat, correct?
Well,
In other words, if you hit him, he's going to hit you back much harder. And so with Trump, it's an eye for an eye. And here you are this morning presenting. We shouldn't be like that.
right.
I mean, do good to those who despitefully use you. I mean, that's a powerful narrative. And in a sense, what we're dealing with is a consensus theory of truth in doing this. In other words, can we have truths, that is, that we agree upon, that is, that would help our behavior to become, move it right along?
Right.
And,
No matter where it comes from.
right. The thing that you said, I don't know if I'm going to quote it exactly, and that's the thing that we see. If you put this Bible in the classroom, you're going to find out these people are not trying to quote people, that is, verbatim. They were simply making up story. They were resonating with ideas, and sometimes they would say, damn, this guy was good. I mean, he was real good. He's a compassionist. And so they had the ability to nuance. And the sad thing of it is, sometimes we get anchored in those stories, and we feel like we can't move forward. And so whether it's Jesus or our parents, we can't just get so anchored in what they believe to be true. We've got to come up with new ways of looking at things, and therefore we need, let's say, a canon that's it's up to date. That
It's
keeps,
always changing.
It's
Yeah,
in flux,
it's in
but
flux.
we
fluid.
have additional models always thrown into it, and this is why I think that a better approach would be, suspending judgment. That is, people having faith. I would argue that both theist and atheist have a faith type of viewpoint. That is, if you're going to, let's say, make the claim that, there is a God, that's faith. I mean, that's all about faith. And if you're going to say there isn't a God, that's mostly about faith if you study it cognitively. Now,
Yeah, I love you, but I don't want to really get into your Sunday night and Wednesday
no,
night show.
I'm not going to get into that. It's boring.
No, it's not boring at all.
But
I
it
want
ties into what you're saying, because
yes.
oftentimes what we do is we say no to the Bible. A lot of people are saying no to the Bible because they have committed themselves to an atheism. Mm-hmm. And what you're offering is a position that says, I'm not committed to being a theist. I'm committed to finding some good sayings that make sense to me so I can move forward.
Right. No matter where they come from.
In other words, we don't care if they come from the Bible, an encyclopedia,
Right.
whether they come from, let's say,
Diana.
right. And so Diana has so many articulate things to say to compliment the community
Right.
that is in compassionism. She needs to be canonized. And I think many people do because they're just good people. They find ways of saying things. Bob says a lot of things that are just, more than just golden. And somehow we need to archive that. It's like your father. Your father is this amazing gentleman, second to none. And, if we're fools, and I keep trying to con him into this, why can't I put a video camera on you and capture that? Because unless we archive that, we're going to forget. Because the brain has the tendency to, reconstruct Pop. And so we're going to take Pop, for instance, your dad, my father-in-law, and we're going to reconstruct him. And that's something that I don't want to do. I don't want to reconstruct him into something that he's not. I would rather archive him video-wise so I can capture the very essence, because it's like Johnny Cash. I keep revisiting a lot of those videos that he did and some of those songs, and I don't know, it's something that's overwhelming. He was saying something in his day and time that I don't think most people got. And so he was moving people forward. Same thing is true with your father. The same thing is true with our uncle. He was an amazing person. Give me a quote from him.
Now, obviously,
This is going to be good.
see, I always thought that whatever he said was original until I got older, and then I realized he was repeating things that he had heard and stuff.
Now, what valley did he come from?
What valley did we come from? We come from this little valley in Virginia called Arnold's Valley,
Okay.
and
Heard it here. Yeah,
you heard
Arnold's
Arnold's Valley, and it's right
Arnold's Valley, USA,
Virginia.
Virginia. Okay.
Okay, and so it's right out of Natural Bridge, Virginia, one of the 7 wonders of the world, Blue Ridge Mountains. Anyway, beautiful. But he would say things like, "A still tongue makes a wise head," and then you think about that, and you go, you know what? He's right. He's absolutely right. And my whole point today is you don't have to have a PhD behind your name or, doctor in front of it, or you don't have to have written 10 books, for somebody to get something out of your life. And all of us, I'm in this category, novices, there are things that we've learned in life that are very important to pass on to other people. And sometimes just an inspiration from someone as insignificant in the whole scheme of things as I am, I want to say every day, I want to say something to somebody that maybe before they go to bed, they'll rethink it and say, that's a good idea. That's the way I want to conduct myself. And I think that's what life is about.
I agree.
I really do. Diana, what are you thinking about this?
Oh my, I'm thinking back to when I was growing up and the people in my life, and especially my babka. God, I miss her. She died 34 years ago, the age of 94.
Whoa.
She was a better parent to me than her own son was. And that's another thing that gets, was it you or Dr. Jones who had mentioned something about, what is it, trying to remember the people in our lives or something like that, and reconstructing, that's it. And I'm trying to decide whether or not I'm reconstructing in a good way with Babka, in a bad way with those two, as I call them. Are there bad things about Babka that I'm not remembering?
Right.
Are there good things about those two that I'm not remembering? It was a painful separation when I came out. 7 years ago, to them at least, what I got from them was goodbye.
Wow.
Is that what I'm keeping in the forefront of my memory, to be bitter? Was there anything good back then that I should hold on to? I don't know.
Yeah.
I've got to search myself for that.
Yeah.
It's a
You
lot
know,
of work, and
it is.
I guess I might as well do it.
Just the fact that you want to search yourself for that, just to me, it proves what a great person you are, because some people would just close the door on that. And, most people do have good in them. There are things that, they've done wrong to us. And we remember those seemingly more so than the good. But I think it's healthy to search and try to reconstruct it and think back. Let me think about the good. I need to think about the bad too, so I can deal with it instead of suppress it. But the fact that you want to go through that journey, it proves everything that we've been saying about you. But I do hate it that goodbye was, their initial response, and I guess since it has been.
Well, I guess it's their final response too, because I found out this past October, I would occasionally do Google searches on my previous surname,
Yes.
and I found a photograph of a headstone. And it turned out that he died September 2016. She died May of 2017. So whatever there was is no longer open for comment.
Right.
And I find that unfortunate. I stayed away because, at least as far as I heard it, they made it clear that they didn't want to talk to me.
Yeah.
But should I have tried to open a line of communication? I don't know. I remember that they weren't too open-minded about many things. So that may have been more trouble than it was worth. I don't know,
Right.
and I never will.
And now you never will know. And, but you have to tell yourself the truth. And I know you do. They said goodbye. And the way I see it, Diana, it was their responsibility, as the two. And that's all they knew. They didn't know anything else. They probably would be like, my parents a few years ago. They would just have said, nah, because they don't know any better. They just didn't know any better. And as Maya Angelou says, when you know better, you do better. And maybe if they knew better, they would have done better, and they just didn't have the time to do better for you. But you can do better for others that are in the same position, and I know you will. And I am so sorry this hurt has come upon you, because that type of relationship and, bond, it's a difficult one to analyze on its own merits, just by itself, without other things, that pop up in life. It really is, and will always have. I think as adult children, second thoughts and wonders and whys and should I have and should they have, and
Oh, not a day goes by that I don't second guess myself on just about everything.
right.
I mean, even this, even transitioning, and was that the right thing to do? I mean, I keep finding out when I searched myself, yeah, of course it was. But there are always those questions there.
Yeah.
So, of course, there are going to be questions elsewhere.
DB Cisco, he posted this, and
Oh.
after listening to Diane, it brought me to tears. And when I read this, he said, his dad said, ask more questions than you give answers. And I like what he said. After that, he said, my dad.
Yeah.
The reason that that is so meaningful to me, and it is to my wife as well, is because we're so close to our fathers, and we're proud of that. We've had very good experiences with them. I'd like to read something if I can. I don't know if I can read this or not this morning. It's tough. My dad used to read this. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Back in 1982, in my life, I started looking at my father as a Lord, in a good sense. Instead of thinking about God, I started looking at my father as this shepherd. You know, when I was a kid, he took me fishing. As a kid, he took me hunting. As a kid, we went camping. We went, just to do so many things. And through those experiences, I could see him as my shepherd. And yes, he did make me to lie down in green pastures. And yes, he did lead me beside the still waters. And yes, he did restore my soul. And yes, he did, to the best of his ability, try to lead me into some kind of narrative that I would say that was good, it was righteous. And yes, it was for my father's namesake. And I can say the same thing about my father-in-law. He's got so many sayings, he's got so many things that just bear out wisdom that we need to listen to. But I can hear my dad saying, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. And we did not take my father to a gravesite, but we had him cremated. And having him with us all the time has been, for me, my rod and my staff. And so this really touches me. And I can see, in a sense, that he placed me in church. And so, in that sense, he did prepare me. That is a table before me in the presence of my enemies.
You found all your enemies at church.
Yeah, I mean, he raised me in church. And
That's where I found my enemies.
that was the table spread. That is, with all of those people condemning me. I could not have been raised in a more condemning place than in church. And yet my father was saying, hey, I just love you. We love people. And yet, look at all of those people. Donald Trump would say, look at all of those son of a bitches. And that's funny. But that's Donald. That's not my father. But, wow. I can see, and this is the thing that I love about poetry. It's not exact. It's just something that we can read into. But let me finish this. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of my enemies. So my dad took me to church to do that. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. The house that my father built, metaphorically for me, I think that I'm still in that house. I'm proud of that house, if that makes sense. I don't think that the poet here intended for us to look at Lord as one who owned human beings, as one who was over. There is more data that would suggest that these poets were simply using terms rhetorically, trying to get people to, find some type of comfort. And so,
Right.
it became, in a sense, a teddy bear. And this is why so many people resonate with this. And
Especially when you just a few words in the English later, my shepherd. And when you think about the shepherd part of it, it is a comfort and
Right.
a person that really wants the best for you and will, risk their life for you. I'm not talking about the crucifixion or anything. I'm just talking about a shepherd, a real
Right.
shepherd. Let's go to Scotland or Ireland or, wherever. I guess somewhere in the United States too, they still do shepherding, but you know what I'm saying.
Right.
They look out for your best interest, and this is from the Bible, and I don't want people to be afraid of the Bible just because you're an atheist or you're agnostic or
Right.
you just want to be cool and say I don't need it or whatever, and it's fine. There are beautiful passages in there to use and to hold on to.
Talk about that stuff. I'm reaching back. And there is something I can think of. I don't have a clear memory of this because I was about 2 years old. But the stories are that I would march over to a convenient adult lap, usually his, book in hand, demand to be read to, while the person was pointing to the words as he read. So they taught me to read at the age of 2. And immediately regretted it, of course. But in a very significant way, they are responsible for what I am.
Sure.
right.
Absolutely. That's a good memory.
It is. DB Cisco, I think, when I start crying, I have to eat.
Oh boy.
But he said
If I was
something.
like that, I would weigh 300 pounds right now.
But let me say something. I appreciate people opening it up a bit. We all go through pain. But he says, I only saw my daughter 4 times. I do not weep for myself, but for denying her the right to a dad. She will never have the dad memories that I did. Wow. That's tough.
Right. Yeah.
Our heart certainly goes out to you.
But those, not everyone had good dad memories, unfortunately. And I can say that, as a child growing, I've had all good dad memories until you get a little older, and then you're more like on the same plane. You're like adult to adult. Then you have a little clash here and there, but it doesn't matter because my dad and I always say I love you. It doesn't matter if we disagree on anything. Because my dad, honestly, we try to talk to him about, trans issues and homosexual issues and things, and he can't, coming from Arnold's Valley,
He's not there yet, Diana.
Virginia, he's like, well, I don't understand this. Where were they when I was growing up? I never, and I was like, Dad, you don't understand. I believe, I'm gonna use the word they, just, they're there, they were there, but they were more afraid to express themselves. Now it's still dicey to express yourself, but the courage is coming and people are understanding better and stuff. And he said, well, I just don't understand because I guess I never have been, exposed to that. And I said, well, you probably have, but you just were too naive to understand or realize. He always says he thinks that it just happened all of a sudden, in the last 4 or 5 years. He thinks because
In other words,
of
Diana,
Bruce Jenner, it all started. He just doesn't understand, and we try to make him understand.
It's like, where did they come from?
Yeah,
I mean,
this doesn't
in my
make
generation,
sense.
we didn't have any, and so why is this a new thing? And so, trying to build that bridge, build connection, that's difficult. I truly believe that if my father-in-law could meet you, it would change everything. He can
Right.
talk to us until, the cows come home. That's not going to change his mind. This is the thing that I keep saying. The rhetoric doesn't change us, but it's the circle of discourse. He needs you in his circle of discourse. Does that make sense, Diana?
Yeah, I guess it does. I don't know that I'm the best spokeswoman for such things, but maybe I've got something going.
You don't have to make the argument. It's when he gets to know you, there is just something that would naturally happen. Wow, this is a marvelous, wonderful person. He would love you to death.
Right, and he would.
And then he would just accept you. He doesn't have to understand what's going on. I don't think that any of us truly understand
Anything.
A to Z.
Anything.
I'm a heterosexual, and I don't understand.
Like, why? Why did we turn out that way?
It's we are very, very, very fortunate in that we have found the kind of love that is amazing. We're so committed to each other. It's unreal, and I don't see that in other relationships. And I feel sorry for people who have not found something similar to what we have. But, other people have found something that's a bit different. And to me, that's fine. If you find love, if you find that the same gender makes it for you, or if you're trans or whatever, that's working for you, hey, you've got a certain amount of time to live, go for it. And so our heart is very much for people. But I think that people can understand you and others when they just get to know you. It's not so much about your argument, about your sexuality or anything. Does that make any sense?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I am not trans. In other words, that does not define me.
Right.
I am not
You're a
lesbian.
human being.
That does not define me. I'm much more than that. It's one of the things I'm trying to do on my YouTube channel, The Lavender Lady, shameless plug there. There's a little series that I'm calling A Day in the Life. And I'm trying to pick out things that are normal to other people. Working on my bike, or when I moved here, I did a little bit on moving in, that sort of thing, in an effort to try to show people that, hey, we are just like you.
Right.
Right.
Exactly. Because when I wake up every morning, I never, ever, ever consider myself heterosexual. I don't think about it. I don't, it doesn't enter my mind. And so I can see where, you would have to think about it probably because of other people's ignorance. But hopefully one day you will wake up and it won't be any concern for you, or a safety issue, or just a human rights issue. It should just be, you should have the same feelings I have when I wake up. You know what I'm saying? I don't think about it. It's nothing. And I wish everyone would be able to do that. They deserve to do that.
Hans shared something. He said, I wish I had any memories of my dad, but he was divorced before I was 5 years old and died. And then then I was 12 years old, I guess. You know, life is not fair. And if we're living our life according to the fairness doctrine, I think we're going to be really, really disappointed. And if there's any comfort that is in life, it would be when we find people who can, in a sense, blend in with us. You know what I'm saying? In other words, when we meet people who haven't had good fathers or mothers or whatever, for some reason they gravitate toward us and they find us to be somewhat fulfilling in that sense of the word. This is why, you know, a lot of people don't know what's going on here at NCG, and the bottom line is when people come into the studio, they quit calling us just friends, but they say, hey, you guys are family. And that's special to us because it's like, this is wonderful. It's like we really know how to be brothers and sisters. We know how to be fathers and mothers. We know how to be kids. We know how to be grandparents. And there's something that's working here that comes natural. It's just
Right.
there's such a nurturing atmosphere here. And it's like Jack, when he came along, he said, you know, this is my family. And I mean, we love Jack. I mean, he's like a brother.
Absolutely.
You know, look at Rick and his family. Look at everyone.
It's
I mean,
like-
it's just unreal.
It's like whenever during the course of the week we say, wow, we missed, you know, DB Cisco commenting last
Right.
week. I hope he's okay, you know, or she's, you know, I hope
Right.
they're okay. Or Hans, you know, where's Hans been?
Right.
You know, are they okay? You know, it's kind of like a shepherd role too, because we're used to church in a way, because we think about the people and we wonder and we hope that they're doing fine, and
well,
maybe that came from a nurturing thing from church.
well, you know, there's.
Not everything in church is bad, people. It's
I
you
mean,
know.
it's kind of like this. You know, social constructs are healthy. That's where we can get nurturing. Let's say we call people sheep, and you have someone who's trying to lead us. You know, we have leaders in life simply because it doesn't have to be political. And what the landscape is like here, it's not political. It's everyone has a voice, and it's not voting, but everyone gets to share their thoughts. And boy, do we make mistakes. And so we look at mistakes as learning opportunities, but we look for reasons to connect with each other instead of disconnection. We try to learn how to adapt instead of being maladaptive. And we didn't plan to say these things on this show, but you know, after reading some of the comments here and talking with Diana, I think that maybe we're headed in the kind of direction that we need to, because I think that humanity, I mean, there's just too much tribalism. You know?
Right.
And there's, sometimes we're trying to say, well, you know, arguments are what life should be about. We need to understand that most people are moving because of herd instinct, and most people are not thinking things through. And I think truly the movement of atheism is more about herd instinct rather than people thinking. The same thing is true with theism. And I wish, this would be just my wish, and this is my heart, I think we need to pull back from that, and we need to, you know, come to a place of suspending judgment that is there, so we're not fussing and fighting. It doesn't become a debate, a fight, a clash. It needs to be, I can suspend judgment and yet resonate, you know, in theory. I don't have to jump off the cliff for theism or atheism. I can look at modeling all day long. And I think that we need to focus more on how to give and, you know, receive and exchange. You know, some people can give, but they can't receive.
Right.
And some people can receive and not give.
Yeah.
And so,
And when you turn that into talking and listening, a lot
Exactly.
of people can give the talk,
Right.
and they don't want to listen. and Diane knows what we're talking about.
Okay, Wild Heart 666. Hello, Kaine Diatheke. Love your content. Keep up the good work. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Wild Heart 666. That number's been on my mind, really. Like everything, like my emails are like, there's 666 of them. Or I'll see something on it'll be 666. I mean, it's just weird.
Right. Cisco has a father's heart. He said in the comment section, and the reason that we read these, it's because I like connecting with people in real time. So does my wife, and I think that Diana does as well. But listen to what he said. He said, I don't understand why Abraham didn't say, take me instead, never my child.
Exactly.
Oh, that's, we need to canonize that right now. Cisco, you're in the Bible.
Or why didn't he say, F you, God? I'm not doing that to my child.
I tell you
I mean,
what.
that's the kind of person you are, but
Yeah.
not me.
Okay,
Never, no
if you were Mother
way.
Mary, okay,
Lord.
and God said to you, you're going to have to give up your son at the age of 33, and I'm going to have him beaten beyond recognition and tortured to death. What would you say to God?
Well, this is...
Be honest.
No, I'm not going to be honest.
Come on.
But
Be honest.
obviously,
Come on.
I would say no.
Oh, come on.
You would just say no.
I would just say no.
Oh, you would just no.
No.
She's not telling the truth right now.
No.
She is not being
Scratch
honest
your eyes
right
out.
now. I'm telling you, she would say more than that.
That's the whole thing about the
Okay,
the
they
parenting
take one
thing.
of our kids and they start beating our
Well,
child
that's
beyond
good.
recognition. That's God's will. What would you say to God?
I want to talk about the Abraham thing.
Okay.
I mean,
Talk about Abraham. You're avoiding the question. Go
No,
for
I'm
it.
not. What's the difference? Go get your son, drag him, and put him on the altar and kill him. Okay, God. Drag his tail to the altar. Oh, getting ready to. Well, I wish somebody would stop me. I don't guess anybody is. And then all of a sudden, there's this poor ram. I wouldn't even kill a ram for you, honest to God. I wouldn't even kill a ram for God.
You wouldn't kill a ram for
No,
God?
I would
Good.
not even kill an animal for him.
Not even a bird.
No.
You wouldn't take a bird and split it in half?
No, I could not do that. I even hate to crush a roach, but that's my problem. That's not where we're going with this right now.
You're not
No.
a very good Christian, are you?
No, I don't guess. Jesus.
What's wrong with her, Diana?
I just would not kill anything.
I mean,
don't
she's
know.
not going to have faith like
Indoctrination
Abraham.
didn't
What's
take
wrong with her?
Like I said, the indoctrination just didn't take, did it?
No, it didn't. Can't do it.
Oh, my.
Hey,
Dr.
Jess-
Jones, you had been reading comments earlier, and you'd mentioned Hans' name. Hans, I don't know if you saw my reply to your comment on the video I just put up last night. I'll say it now. The fact that you were wondering whether you were open-minded or not indicates to me that you are. So I hope that's a good thing.
Excellent. Excellent.
Yeah, I can see that. And now I know what they're talking about, but when you ask, am I open-minded, that means I probably want to be, but am I really? I need to work on it if I'm not.
There we go. Are we out of time? Almost. Okay.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Well, I tell you what,
You know, we are having a good time, but yet at the same time, I think we're having a nurturing time. This is why I think this works, because we're not people trying to make everyone into this or that. We're here to say that we accept people for who they are unconditionally. We love you unconditionally. We may not agree with some of your ideas, but we can talk about your ideas and my ideas and my wife's ideas, and they don't have to be in concert at all. We don't mind the tension that comes along with discussion, but we refuse to get into bashing. That is, people bashing simply because they have faith or not faith or whatever. That doesn't make any sense to us. And so what we're talking about this morning is when it comes to my uncle, I hope that we can put him in the canon. If not, I would like to see Jesus removed from the canon, because if you can't put good people within the framework of this, the Bible, there are many here. We had a person who just walked in the studio. His name is Jesse. He's a very good person. We need to put the life and times of Jesse in the Bible. If we can't put it in the Bible, we need to take this thing and throw it away. And I'm making a point.
Well, we can start something else. Well, you don't have to throw it away. I mean, you
Well,
remind me of the people burning all the books.
No,
and
I'm just
stuff.
making a poetic point. I'm just saying, why do we exclude? All of these people who are called universalists, they stick to this instead of saying, oh, yeah, this is a book, we need to add pages. Let's add lots and lots of books in science and lots of other people who had good lives and moral stories to share. And then when people look at the book, this book becomes huge. It becomes a library. And so I'm simply advocating a library. Mm-hmm. And so just making some points to see if we can become a little bit more reasonable about it all. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Reason.
Now where do we go?
Well,
Hello.
I do want to say that, oh, that's cool. Hans did see the comment. Oh,
That was good.
Good thing. Yay.
duck face, duck lips. I don't know how to do that, but I think when you're a certain age, your lips are already too something for duck lips, so you just should not try them. If you're over 40, do not try the duck lips.
I remember 40.
Yeah, do you? I don't even remember 40.
Longer ago than I care to think about.
Well,
Let's. I tell you, read something inspiring from this book people call the Bible. What? Where? He's putting it up, people.
this red Bible is not as good as this black one.
Yeah, duct taped.
No. Wow. You guys say something good before I read this.
Well, dang,
Dang.
you can't find. This country has a turnip green. You can't find. Oh, okay. I know where you're going.
Okay. Now, this is somewhat
Nice to see
what
you.
Paul meant. I'm not going to argue that this is what the Greek text says, but I will say that this is a good piece. And so this is the NIV version of Paul Spins, so we will call this NIV Paul. And now I will show you the most excellent way. He said, if I speak in the tongues of men, blah, 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 and of angels, but have not love, I am only a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal. If I have the gift of prophecy and can fathom all mysteries and all knowledge, if I have a faith that can move mountains, but have not love, I am nothing. If I give all I possess to the poor and surrender my body to the flames, but have not love, I gain nothing. He makes this statement, I love this. Verse 4, chapter 13, 1 Corinthians. Love is patient. I love that. Simply because, when you think about loving one another, if someone loves you, they're going to be extremely patient with you. It says love is kind. That's something that I can handle, Diana. When people are kind to me, I can handle that. Can you?
Yeah, I think I can. At least I try to. I mean, when people are kind to me, I'm not sure what to do with it, but I think I can get there.
Okay. So let me read
Fair
this
enough.
again. Love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. It is not rude. In other words, if you love someone, you're not going to be rude to them. Now, from time to time, we tend to be an asshole, but we don't have to be. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. And that's one of the most beautiful things that I've ever read that is within the context of the Bible. Love doesn't keep a record of wrongs. And one could put it, if God is truly love, and love is God. And if love doesn't keep a record of wrongs, then what does that suggest about the atonement theories? In other words, if God had to have someone beaten beyond recognition and tortured to death to atone for someone, that would imply that he was keeping a record of wrongs, correct? But when I read this, it says love doesn't keep a record of wrongs. And so if God, that is within the story, not a real God, but a story God, if love doesn't keep a record of wrongs, and this means a lot to me because, as a father, as a grandfather, if I hold grudges against my children, what does that suggest about me? If I resent my children, what does that say about me? That's why I don't like the language of the Old Testament concerning this God, Yahweh, because he states that he resented that he had made humanity. And what does he do? He sends a flood to kill all of them, but 8 and a handful of animals. Now, that doesn't seem like a good parent to me. And so when I read this, it says, love doesn't keep a record of wrongs. And I also like verse 6. It says, love does not delight in evil. In other words, when you see something happening, it's not something that, you're going to get thrilled with. Something bad is happening to someone. You're not going to do that. But it rejoices with truth. It always protects. Love that. In other words, if someone says, I love you, but they're not willing to protect you, you can bank on this. They really don't love you. And so I love some of these things in principle. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Hence, love never fails. I love that. And so my wife and I, we live life to the max simply because, unconditional love and acceptance means a lot to us. Becoming allies with people means a lot to us because, you can say that you love someone. You can say that you accept them. But until you become their ally, your love is never put to the test. Does that make any sense to you, Diana?
Oh, it makes all the sense in the world. I mean, one does not know that she is loved until there is a disagreement with another and that other still accepts, embraces, loves her.
Right, exactly. That's well put. Right, it's got to be put to the test. I mean, in theory, it's beautiful and it's, poetic, but in practice, it's very ugly and messy sometimes, but it's put to the test, and that's how it has to be.
If I were writing a commentary on chapter 13, I would say this is how love nurtures. It nurtures through patience, kindness, not keeping a record of wrongs, always being there, always protecting. And I think this particular passage really teaches us how to nurture one another, nurture a relationship, if you will. And so that's all I have to read from the Holy Bible. This is the black version.
Well, thank you for that reading.
Yeah.
And so it came from a source that a lot of people wouldn't ever want to pick up and read from, but that's in there. And you can do with it as you please because you can.
Yep. Sounds good. So are we out of time?
We are out of time, unfortunately.
We've got to go.
But thank you, Diana, so much for joining us today, and thank you for your input.
Well, thank you for having me around. I think I said before the show, am I becoming a regular fixture around here?
You
I love
are.
it, but
You are. We see the value in you, and we're just going to use it up until there's no more, right? No, I'm just joking. We're going to squeeze you like a orange.
hopefully there's a few years ahead, and there's hopefully a lot more. So hopefully I won't be used up anytime soon.
No, you have a lot to give, and what you say, I think, needs to be said to a lot of people, and we want to get people there together where we all need to be, and that's, accepting, and like we talked about, unconditional love and acceptance is something we'd like to see the whole world pass through. It's going to take all of us speaking about it, so that's why we're here.
Dr. Jones, you've mentioned 1 Corinthians 13 many times, and you've got me thinking I have to work on a way to turn that into a cross-stitch pattern, because I really like that, and I'd really like to be able to see it day to day and have it remind me of what love is.
I may send
Perfect
you
idea.
my translation on that. I think it's much better than what we find in the NIV, because it does demonstrate that Paul saw that nurturing was preferred as opposed to commandment. In other words, when Jesus was speaking, he was saying, you could take the entire Mosaic law and wrap it up into one idea, and with that one idea, we could all win. In other words, if you could take all of justice, that is, all of the justice that we've experienced throughout our history as a nation of Israel, if we would take all of that and focus on love, I think things would be all right. And that's where Jesus was headed in his messages. And so I don't want to push back on a compassionist. Whether he existed or not, I think these are good principles. And so this is not the story of how to get saved, but if salvation means I can change my behavior to become better, I'm all for it. But to say that the wages of sin is death, in the sense of it's going to take you to a place of eternal torment of some kind, or outer darkness, that would be absurd. Humanity goes through enough hell to have to hear hell day in and day out from behind pulpits. And humanity doesn't need to be condemned. It doesn't need to be told that humanity is a sinful species. When I look at my children, if I tell any of my children or any of my grandchildren that they're sinners, there's something about employing that word and throwing that word at them that's condemning. They don't need to feel as if they're a sinner or wicked or wretched or worthless. They need to find value in who they are. In other words, the only way that we can respect and love one another, it's if, first of all, we've got to find some sense of value within, your own self. And this is why I think the conversation needs to be a little bit more open-minded. It doesn't need to be with lots of gotcha questions and stuff like that. It's absurd. And so I'm more interested in being a little bit more tender, willing to say I'm not perfect, but I do have a translation of that model that I think that you would resonate with a little bit more, but do the NIV if you'd like. Not all versions read the same, by the way. Does that make sense?
Of course, yeah.
Okay. Well, we're going to get out of here.
Yeah.
We're out of time completely.
time.
And so, Jack, I think that we can take it away.
See you next week. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
It's not us versus them or me versus you.
So we're not talking about an us versus them mentality. We're going for this versus that.
This versus that.
Yeah, okay.
I think it helps you get along better.
game.
Right?
Right?
Sometimes
We get along so well, and sometimes you're extreme right, I'm extreme left, I'm liberal, you're a conservative, and yet we get along so well. That's marvelous, wonderful.
That's amazing.
That's amazing.
Okay.
Amazing grace.
So today,
Saved a wretch.
like you. So today, what we're going to do.
That's good. Come on, talk to me. Get into that microphone.
What we're going to do is trying to give you a little example
An
of
example. Give me an example of
this versus that thing.
would he have said,
didn't want
come
to
on,
know.
Hillary, vote for me, baby.
No.
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 He wasn't
I don't
doing
know. I don't know about that.